The sun was barely breaking over the San Fernando Valley on the morning of September 18th, 1968. The film set was already alive with activity. Grips hauling equipment, electricians positioning lights, camera operators checking lenses, makeup artists preparing their stations, wardrobe coordinators organizing costumes. The crew had been there since 5:30 a.m., just like they'd been every day for the past 2 weeks. This was a major production. Big budget, big names, big expectations. And at the center of it all was a relatively new director who was earning a reputation not just for his acting, but for something Hollywood desperately needed more of: discipline. Clint Eastwood stood near the camera, studying the shot list for the day. He was calm, focused, methodical. At 38 years old, Clint had already established himself as a television star with Rawhide, and had just exploded onto the film scene with Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns. But he wasn't just an actor anymore. He was beginning his journey as a director, learning the craft from the ground up, and he was bringing something to Hollywood that was becoming increasingly rare: respect for the process. Clint understood something that many stars didn't. A film set isn't a kingdom built around one person's ego. It's a machine, intricate and interdependent, where dozens or even hundreds of people have to work in perfect coordination. The gaffer needs the electrician. The director of photography needs the grips. The actors need makeup and wardrobe. The director needs everyone. And the entire machine runs on one critical element: time. Every minute wasted on a film set costs money. Real money. The crew is on clock. The equipment is rented by the day. The location permits have strict windows. Insurance costs multiply with delays. A production running smoothly can come in on budget and on schedule. A production plagued by delays can spiral into financial disaster. Clint knew this. He'd seen productions fall apart. He'd watched egos destroy projects. And he'd made himself a promise. If he was ever in charge, things would be different. The call time that morning was 6 a.m. By 5:45, everyone was in position except one person: Dean Martin, the star, the name above the title. The reason the studio had greenlit the project in the first place. Dean Martin was Hollywood royalty, part of the legendary Rat Pack alongside Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. Dean had conquered television with The Dean Martin Show, dominated music with dozens of hit records, and starred in successful films throughout the 1960s. He was charming, talented, and seemingly effortless in everything he did. His laid-back persona was his trademark. Cool, casual, always with a drink in hand, and a joke on his lips. The image was carefully cultivated. Dean Martin, the man who made everything look easy. But there was a difference between looking effortless and being careless. There was a difference between casual cool and disrespect. And Clint Eastwood was about to teach Hollywood that difference in the most decisive way possible. The first warning sign. 6 a.m. came and went. No Dean Martin. The assistant director checked his watch, then checked with Dean's trailer. No answer. He radioed to the gate. Dean hadn't arrived yet. The crew waited. They'd worked with stars before. They knew the drill. Stars sometimes ran late. It was part of the game. But professional stars called ahead. They apologized. They acknowledged that their lateness affected dozens of other people. At 6:30 a.m., Dean Martin's car finally pulled through the gate. He emerged wearing sunglasses despite the early morning darkness, carrying a coffee cup, moving without any apparent urgency. He strolled to his trailer, as if he was right on time, as if the 70 crew members who'd been waiting for half an hour were just part of the scenery. The assistant director intercepted him. "Mr. Martin, we were expecting you at 6. "Was that today?" Dean flashed his famous smile. "My apologies, kid. You know how it is. The artistic mind doesn't run on clock time." The assistant director didn't know how to respond. This was Dean Martin. You didn't push back against Dean Martin. He reported the situation to Clint, who was still by the camera, still reviewing the shot list. "He's here now." Clint asked. "Yes, sir. Going into makeup." "How long was he?" 30 minutes. Clint nodded once, his face unreadable. "Let me know when he's ready to shoot." That was it. No explosion. No tantrum. Just acknowledgement. But Clint filed the information away. He was watching, he was calculating, and he was beginning to understand exactly what kind of production this was going to be. Dean took another 45 minutes in makeup and wardrobe. By the time he arrived on set, ready to shoot, it was 7:45 a.m., almost 2 hours after call time. 2 hours of crew wages, 2 hours of equipment rental, 2 hours of lost shooting time that would have to be made up later, probably by working longer days, which meant overtime costs, which meant budget overruns. But Dean Martin arrived on set with that same casual smile, that same effortless cool, as if nothing was wrong, as if his time was the only time that mattered. They shot the scene. Dean was professional once the cameras rolled. He knew his lines. He hit his marks. He delivered exactly what the script required. And when Clint called cut, Dean immediately relaxed, pulling out a cigarette, chatting with whoever was nearby, completely unconcerned with the morning's delay. Clint said nothing, but he was watching, always watching. The pattern emerges. The second day started the same way. 5:30 a.m., the crew arrived. Grips, electricians, camera operators, sound technicians, makeup artists, wardrobe coordinators. All of them on time. All of them ready to work. All of them professionals who understood that their reliability was what kept them employed in a competitive industry. 6 a.m. No Dean Martin. The assistant director checked. Dean hadn't left his hotel yet. No call. No explanation. Just absence. At 7:30 a.m., 90 minutes late, Dean's car pulled through the gate. He emerged looking refreshed, relaxed, sipping coffee from a hotel cup. He waved casually at the crew members who'd been standing around waiting for him, then disappeared into his trailer. This time, when the assistant director approached him, Dean was less apologetic. "Listen, kid, you gotta understand something. I'm not a morning person. Never have been. My creative energy doesn't kick in until later. You want me at my best, you gotta let me wake up naturally. Mr. Martin, the call time is..." "I know what the call time is," Dean interrupted, his tone still friendly but with an edge now. "And I'm here, aren't I? I'm ready to work. So let's work." The assistant director reported back to Clint. This time, Clint's jaw tightened slightly. Just slightly, but enough to show that he'd heard, that he understood, that he was processing. "How late?" Clint asked. 90 minutes. And his reason? He says he's not a morning person. Says his creative energy needs time to develop. Clint looked at the assistant director for a long moment. Then he looked at the crew, scattered around the set, some sitting on equipment cases, some standing in small groups, all of them waiting. All of them professionals who'd been there on time. All of them people with families and lives and bills to pay. People who depended on production staying on schedule so they could move to the next job. People whose time apparently didn't matter to Dean Martin. Get him to set when he's ready. Clint said quietly, "We'll adjust the schedule." But everyone who knew Clint Eastwood understood what that meant. Clint didn't forget. Clint didn't forgive casual disrespect. Clint kept a ledger in his mind, and that ledger was now tracking 2 entries. 30 minutes on day 1, 90 minutes on day 2. The pattern was establishing itself. And patterns, once established, were hard to break. That day's shoot went long. They worked until 9 p.m., trying to make up for the lost morning hours. The crew didn't complain. They were professionals, but they were tired. And they were beginning to resent the star who treated their time as disposable while they worked 14-hour days to accommodate his creative energy. Dean Martin, however, seemed oblivious. Or perhaps he simply didn't care. When shooting wrapped for the day, he was the first one off the set, heading back to his hotel, probably to meet friends for drinks, to enjoy his evening while the crew stayed behind to break down equipment and prepare for tomorrow's early call. Clint stayed until the last crew member left. He always did. It was part of his philosophy. The director should be the first one there and the last one to leave. The director sets the tone. The director models the behavior he expects from everyone else. If Clint asked his crew to show up at 5:30 a.m., then Clint showed up at 5:30 a.m. If he asked them to work professional and focused, then he worked professional and focused. It was a simple philosophy. Respect the people you work with. Honor their time. Acknowledge their contribution. Treat filmmaking as a collaborative art, not a cult of personality. Dean Martin clearly had a different philosophy. The breaking point. Day 3. The critical day. The day that will become Hollywood legend. The crew arrived at 5:30 a.m. Just like always, they were tired from the previous day's long shoot, but they were there, on time, ready to work, because that's what professionals do. Clint arrived at 5:30 a.m. Just like always, he reviewed the day's shot list, checked in with the department heads, walked the set to ensure everything was in position. By 6 a.m., everything was ready. Every department had done their job. Everyone was in position, except Dean Martin. 6 a.m. passed, then 6:30, then 7 o'clock. The assistant director kept checking. Dean's hotel said he'd left at 6:45. His car had been seen entering the studio lot at 7:15. But Dean himself remained invisible, presumably in his trailer. At 7:30 a.m., word came back. Dean was in his trailer, but he wasn't ready. He was preparing. He needed time for his process. At 8 a.m., 2 full hours after call time, Dean Martin finally emerged from his trailer. He was fully made up, fully costumed, looking exactly as he should look for the day's shooting. But he'd taken 2 hours to get there. 2 hours while the entire production waited. 2 hours of crew time. 2 hours of equipment rental. 2 hours of location permit. 2 hours of budget burning away like money thrown into a fire. And Dean Martin walked onto the set with that same casual smile, that same effortless cool, completely unconcerned. The crew was exhausted. Not physically, not yet, but mentally, emotionally. They'd been standing around since dawn, waiting, unable to start work because the star hadn't shown up, unable to do their jobs because one man valued his artistic preparation more than the collective effort of dozens of professionals. Some of the crew were angry. Others were resigned. This was Hollywood. This was how stars behaved. You accepted it or you found another line of work. But Clint Eastwood was neither angry nor resigned. He was calculating. He'd given Dean Martin 2 chances. He'd adjusted schedules. He'd absorbed the delays. He'd tried to make it work. But this third instance wasn't just lateness anymore. This was a pattern. This was a statement. This was Dean Martin telling everyone on this production that his time mattered and their time didn't. And Clint Eastwood had reached a decision. 4 words that changed Hollywood. Clint walked across the set toward Dean Martin. He didn't rush. He didn't storm. He just walked, calm and purposeful, the way he did everything. The crew noticed. Conversation stopped. People turned to watch. There was something in Clint's body language that told them something significant was about to happen. Dean saw Clint approaching and smiled his famous smile. "Morning, Clint. Sorry about the delay. You know how it is with makeup. They always want to get it perfect." "Dean," Clint said, his voice quiet but carrying clearly in the morning air. "We need to talk." Sure. What's on your mind? This is the 3rd day you've been late." Dean's smile didn't fade but became slightly fixed. "Come on, Clint. It's not that big a deal. I'm here now. Let's shoot. Day 1. You were 30 minutes late." Clint continued, his tone still quiet but absolutely firm. "Day 2. You were 90 minutes late. Today, you're 2 hours late. That's 4 hours of production time lost in 3 days. 4 hours of crew time you've wasted. 4 hours of budget you burned." "I explained that," Dean said, his voice taking on a defensive edge. "I'm not a morning person. My creative process." "Your creative process," Clint interrupted, "requires 70 other people to stand around and wait while you prepare. Those 70 people were here at 5:30 this morning. They've been here every morning at 5:30. They do their jobs. They show up on time. They respect everyone else's time, but you don't respect theirs. Now, wait a minute. I'm not finished," Clint said, and there was something in his voice now that stopped Dean cold. Not anger, not rage, just absolute, unshakable conviction. This is a professional film set. Everyone here is a professional. The grips who hauled equipment at dawn. The electricians who positioned lights in the dark. The camera operators who checked their equipment before sunrise. The makeup artists who were ready at 6 a.m., all of them professionals who understand that filmmaking is collaborative, that we all depend on each other, that respecting each other's time is how we do this job. Dean's smile was gone now. Clint, I'm the star of this picture. You need me. I need everyone, Clint replied. That's the point you're not getting. I need the gaffer as much as I need you. I need the sound mixer as much as I need you. Because without them, you're just a guy standing in front of a camera that isn't recording anything. You think you're the most important person here, but you're not. Everyone here is equally important, and everyone here deserves respect. This is ridiculous, Dean said, his voice rising slightly. I'm Dean Martin. I've been making movies since before you. I don't care who you are, Clint said, cutting him off. His voice was still quiet, still controlled, but there was steel in it now. Absolute, unbreakable steel. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how many records you've sold or how many movies you've made. None of that gives you the right to treat my crew like they don't matter. None of that excuses showing up 2 hours late 3 days in a row and acting like it's not a problem. Dean stared at Clint, perhaps for the first time truly understanding that this wasn't going away, that Clint wasn't going to laugh it off or accept excuses or bow to star power. This production runs on discipline, Clint continued. It runs on mutual respect. It runs on everyone doing their job and honoring everyone else who's doing their job. You've shown me over 3 days that you're not willing to do that. You've shown me that you think your comfort is more important than this team's time. And I can't have that on my set. Your set. Dean's voice was incredulous now. I'm the star. This is my picture. No, Clint said simply. It's our picture. All of us. And you're not willing to be part of the U.S. The silence that followed was profound. Everyone on set was watching now, no longer pretending to be busy. This was a moment they'd never seen before. A director confronting a major star. Not with anger, not with drama, but with principles. Dean Martin opened his mouth to speak. Perhaps to argue, perhaps to apologize, perhaps to try charm one more time. But Clint didn't give him the chance. Pack your things. 4 words. Quiet. Calm. Final. Dean blinked. What? Pack your things, Clint repeated, his voice unchanged. You're done. You're firing me? Dean's voice was a mixture of disbelief and outrage. You can't fire me. I'm Dean Martin. The studio. We'll understand, Clint said. I'll explain to them that we had an actor who repeatedly showed disrespect for crew, who wasted production time, who refused to honor his call times despite multiple opportunities to correct his behavior. They'll understand. And if they don't, I'll walk too. The threat hung in the air. Clint Eastwood was rising in Hollywood. Studios wanted him. But even if they didn't, even if this ended his career too, his expression made it clear. He meant what he said. This was a line in the sand. This was a principle that mattered more than career considerations. Dean Martin stood there, perhaps for the first time in years experiencing consequences for his behavior. In the Rat Pack days, lateness was excused as part of the cool factor. On his television show, schedules bent around his preferences. In his music career, his charm smoothed over any rough edges. But here, on this set, with this director, none of that mattered. Dean started, then stopped. What could he say? That he'd be on time tomorrow? Clint's expression made it clear that tomorrow wasn't an option. The decision was made. Pack your things, Clint repeated a third time, and leave the lot within the hour. Dean Martin's face went through several expressions. Anger, disbelief, wounded pride, and finally, perhaps, a glimmer of understanding. He'd pushed too far. He'd mistaken patience for weakness. And he discovered that Clint Eastwood's patience had limits, and those limits were reached. Without another word, Dean turned and walked back to his trailer. The crew watched him go, watched this legend of Hollywood walking away from production, not because of creative differences, not because of scheduling conflicts, but because he couldn't show up on time, because he treated their time as worthless. Clint turned to face the crew. Every eye was on him. Every person wondering what would happen next. How do you continue a production when you've just fired your star? We'll recast, Clint said simply. We'll shoot around the role for the next few days while we find someone else. Yes, it'll cost time and money to reshoot what we've already got with Dean, but it'll cost less than continuing with someone who doesn't respect this team. This production is built on professionalism. Everyone here brings that professionalism every single day, and that's not going to change. Then he did something that would become part of the legend. He walked to each department head and apologized to the grips for making them wait 3 mornings in a row, to the camera team for wasting their prep time, to makeup and wardrobe for the chaos of accommodating lateness. To everyone, he acknowledged what Dean Martin never had, that their time mattered, that their work mattered, that they mattered, the ripple effect. Within hours, the story had spread through Hollywood like wildfire. Clint Eastwood fired Dean Martin. For words, pack your things. The industry was stunned. Dean Martin was Hollywood royalty. You didn't fire Hollywood royalty. You accommodated them. You worked around them. You accepted their quirks and their demands because that's how the system worked. But Clint Eastwood had just proven that the system could work differently. The studio, when they heard, had to make a choice. Support their rising director or support their established star. They chose Clint, not just because they believed in him, but because when they heard the full story, when they understood the pattern of lateness and disrespect, they realized Clint was right. Talent didn't excuse unprofessionalism. Star power didn't justify wasting crew time and budget money. They recast the role. The production continued. And the film, when released, was successful, not despite the Dean Martin incident, but perhaps partly because of it. The crew worked with renewed energy, knowing they had a director who valued them, who would protect them, who understood that they were all in this together. Dean Martin's career didn't end that day, but it shifted. He continued to work, continued to perform, continued to be Dean Martin, but the story followed him. Other directors, other producers heard what happened, and they thought twice before casting him. Not because he wasn't talented, but because talent alone wasn't enough anymore. Because Clint Eastwood had drawn a line and Hollywood had noticed. The incident became a teaching moment. Film schools started using it as an example of leadership, of standing up for principles even when it's difficult, of understanding that filmmaking is collaborative and that collaboration requires mutual respect. Clint Eastwood's career, meanwhile, soared. He became one of Hollywood's most respected directors, known not just for his artistic vision, but for his professionalism, his efficiency, his respect for crew. Actors wanted to work with him. Crews wanted to work with him. Studios wanted to fund his projects. Because everyone knew, on a Clint Eastwood set, professionalism mattered. Respect mattered. Everyone's time mattered. The legacy. Looking back now, decades later, those 4 words resonate with a truth that Hollywood desperately needed to hear. Pack your things. They weren't spoken in anger. They weren't theatrical. They were simply the logical conclusion of a pattern that couldn't continue. They were the embodiment of a principle. That talent never excuses unprofessionalism. That star power doesn't justify disrespect. That filmmaking is a team effort before it is personal art. The story became legendary not because Clint Eastwood was harsh or cruel, but because he was right, and Hollywood knew it. Every crew member who'd ever waited hours for a tardy star knew it. Every producer who'd watched budgets balloon because of star tantrums knew it. Every director who tried to maintain discipline while accommodating egos knew it. Clint had said out loud what everyone was thinking. This behavior is not acceptable. Not from anyone. Not even from Dean Martin. The broader lesson extended beyond just one incident. It established a precedent. It told Hollywood's emerging generation of actors that respect for the craft meant respect for everyone involved in the craft. It showed that true professionalism wasn't about looking cool or being effortless. It was about honoring commitments, respecting other people's time, and understanding that every person on set, from the biggest star to the newest production assistant, contributes something essential. Years later, when Clint Eastwood was asked about the incident, his response was characteristically simple. Everyone's time matters. Everyone's work matters. That's not negotiable. for more words that summed up his entire philosophy. The story of Dean Martin showing up 2 hours late and Clint Eastwood ending it with "pack your things" remains relevant today. In an era of social media and celebrity culture, when fame can seem like a license for bad behavior, the story reminds us that true respect has nothing to do with how famous you are and everything to do with how you treat the people around you. Dean Martin was talented. Dean Martin was famous. Dean Martin was beloved by millions. But none of that gave him the right to waste 70 people's time. None of that excused 3 days of disrespect. And when he couldn't understand that basic truth, Clint Eastwood gave him 4 words that changed Hollywood forever. Pack your things. Not a curse. Not a threat, not a dramatic scene, just a boundary, just a principle, just a simple statement that some things, professionalism, respect, dignity, are worth protecting, even when protecting them costs you your star. That's leadership. That's integrity. That's what happens when someone has the courage to say no more, even when saying it seems impossible. August 12th, 1962, Dean Martin stood on a stage getting sprayed with champagne. And Dean Martin stood up for him. September 18th, 1968, Dean Martin stood on a film set thinking his fame made him untouchable, and Clint Eastwood proved him wrong. 2 stories, 2 Deans, 2 moments that define what brotherhood and professionalism really mean. The moment when friendship defeated hatred. The moment when principles defeated privilege. The moment when 4 quiet words proved more powerful than all the star power in Hollywood. Pack your things. Those words echo through Hollywood still. A reminder that talent is never an excuse for disrespect, that no one is bigger than collaborative effort, and that sometimes the most important thing a leader can do is draw a line and refuse to let anyone cross it. That's a performance worth remembering. That's a lesson worth learning. That's leadership worth following. And that's why, decades later, we still tell the story of the day Clint Eastwood looked at Dean Martin and said 4 words that changed everything.